Hi there, I'm Jennifer Angel. This is my Mercury retrograde report. Yes, it's that time again. Okay, so I'm going to go through all the stages of the Mercury transit and what it means in plain English, okay? And then after I finish that, I'm going to just give you a quick sort of overview per sign of what Mercury retrograde is going to mean for you. I do have a report up on the website, jenniferangel.com. I'll put the link in, down the bottom as well. And it's more information about per each sign as well. So you might like to go and have a look at that. All right, so let's get started. So Mercury retrograde, it says April, May. It's starting this week. So is it magic or is it mayhem? All right. So here's how you can use the energy for your best advantage. So communication planet Mercury is known as the thinking planet of intellect and can affect the way that you think, communicate, and relate to others. It's known as the celestial messenger of the gods and is, as a rule, retrograde 3 times a year for around 3 weeks each time. And, it can cause all sorts of magical things as well as, mayhem and chaos. So, during the retrograde transit, Mercury appears to be going backwards through the zodiac. It's actually a visual illusion. And Mercury passes between the Earth and the Sun. It creates like a deceptive rather than an actual effect. However, during a retrograde period, all sorts of confusion and uncertainty can take place. So it's wise to just double check the fine print of anything that you submit, especially if it has your name attached to it. And don't be in too much of a hurry to push things through. So excuse me, it's, if possible, delay signing any official documents until after Mercury comes out of retrograde. I know that's not always possible. Mercury doesn't always, life doesn't always wait for Mercury to come out of retrograde. So if you do have to, go ahead with something, so just make sure you have a second pair of eyes that look it over, sort of like, don't assume that something is right. You want to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, okay? And regularly back up your electronic files too. That's something that's great to do during this time. Get it done now, before we head into the Mercury retrograde. So, which will be on the 21st of this month. So be mindful of checking travel arrangements as well, and for that matter, any arrangements. So it's a time when mix-ups can, take place. So you want to double check everything. So, be careful of the way that you reach out and communicate with others, and just pay attention to, ensure that everyone's on the same page. Everyone knows what they're accountable for. So mistakes and errors can certainly be made with electronic communications and all sorts of communications. Let's face it. So Mercury is the planet of communication, education. And so, it goes sort of like, face to face or electronic as well. So, being mindful of a Mercury retrograde transit can just help you prepare for any interruptions that cross your path, and you'll be able to work them to your best advantage. All right, but it's not all bad news. There is certain ways that you can use this planetary transit really to your advantage. It is the planet of communication and commerce, so it does have a strong influence on all forms of travel, communication, creativity, education, and business, as well as technical correspondence and equipment. And let's face it, we do live in a hyper-connected mercurial world, so it's the information age, and it's brought the phenomenon of Mercury retrograde into the mainstream awareness with our fast-paced, techno-dependent culture that we have. And it makes the retrograde stand out a little bit more dramatically than in the past. So, there's a need sort of for a time out now. It's really great to say, you know what? Don't succumb to people's pressures to say, let me think about it. Let me get back tomorrow, sleep on it. and just take a little time out to sort of think things through. It's not a great time to make rash decisions, for sure. It's also known as, the messenger, of course, but it's also known as trickster. It's mischievous. And, as it, appears to move backward in the sky, it's going to start on August the 21st and through to May the 14th. So the usual precautions apply. And it is in the sign of Taurus, but the usual precautions are double check fine print, postpone any major purchases, particularly if they're electronic purchases. I always be careful not to buy a computer or phone during a retrograde time. And be careful of signing important documents, as I said. So regularly back up your electronic files, all the travel arrangements. And so, Mercury's primary domain is the realm of thought. So pay attention to your mental clarity or lack of it, okay? So it's normal to get a little bit sort of confused during this time, particularly as it's coming in and out of the retrograde. And I'm going to cover that in more detail for you in a moment. So it is in Taurus. Taurus is a sign that doesn't easily change their mind or thinking. So this can sort of trigger a great deal of frustration. And so, in Aries, for instance, they're like quick thinking, they can change on a dime, not so much for the Taurus energy. So there is a little frustration that comes with that, so, and that can be accompanied with just a scattered, focus or a little confusion as well. You want to use the time to, explore, research, just hone your plans. Cut yourself some slack if your concentration wanders. Maybe it's a sign that you need to take a step back and just think things through a little more thoroughly. So that Mercury's trickster quality, mischievousness can, really manifest big time now. So be mindful to just communicate clearly and honestly, be upfront, double check, follow up in writing. It's a time to repair and restore, not just of anything technical, but with yourself as well. Just repair and restore. So it's part of taking that step back and being there for yourself. So it's like the cosmos gives you a bit of a time out, and you can return to your, normal routine refreshed once you do that. You know what I mean? Some people say that, experts on refreshing energy will say, it's a good light to get up every hour. I've never been able to achieve that personally, but I do try to do it every couple of hours or every 3 hours at least. So, this is a good time to do that. And if it's something that you want to include in your life, then it's a good time to make that change now. And if you can take advantage of it, then it's especially valuable for creative projects, okay? All right, let's have a look at the transits. So first of all, we have what's called the shadow. So the first part of the shadow phase of the cycle, with Mercury in the sign of Taurus, it's marked by the final degree that Mercury goes back to, okay, when it finishes its retrograde. So that date is April the 7th. So we're already in that shadow period, all right? So the second shadow period is when Mercury returns to where the retrograde began, okay? So it's going retrograde, and then when it gets back to that starting point, excuse me, that's called the second shadow. That will extend through to May the 31st, all right? So, the shadow periods are sort of like Mercury retrograde light, it's like some of the disrupted energy is sort of slowed down. Personally, I always feel when it goes into the shadow, but I've been following and studying astrology for many, many years, and I'm highly intuitive. So, if you want to know how this affects your sign, then this is a great time to reach out and have a session with me. All right, so once we get the shadow, the next phase is called the storm. This is the mayhem stage. This is the chaos, okay? It's the most disruptive transit stage. So this is the period on either side of the Mercury retrograde. It's the 3 or 4 days. Some astrologies will do more. For me, it's like it's the, 3 or so days. When Mercury is stationary retrograde, so it's entering the transit. So it's a 3 or 4 days either side. So again, these days are either side when Mercury is stationary retrograde or stationary direct coming out of the transit. So it's both ends when it's going in and going out 3 or 4 days inside. That's really the most disruptive. So the storm of the Mercury retrograde, as I said, it's the most problematic, let's put that word to it, when the planet appears to change direction. So this is going to be from April the 18th through to the 24th, okay, round about then. And on the other end, it's going to be between May the 12th and the 18th. So these are the days to especially thrive for sort of like a Zen-like attitude towards delays, drop calls, don't get involved in any road rage, computer or phone glitches, and communication mix-ups. And you always want to think to yourself, we don't, when someone sort of does something, I had an analogy from I think it was John Azaraf, who I work with in his courses the other day, and he said, this is just one analogy, like you're driving along, somebody's cutting into you and, beeping, and trying to get in and then cutting you off, and you think, God, what is going on? Like, really? And, I mean, if you're already feeling a little bit sort of off, then it can cause you to, not you but anyone, to get a little bit frustrated and perhaps a little angry. That's where the road rage start. Now, if you knew, for instance, if that person had a sick child in the car and it was a life and death respiratory situation or whatever, or an allergy, and they're trying to get to a hospital, that puts a whole different slant on it, doesn't it? Right? And so the point is, you never really know. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. So particularly when we've got the Mercury retrograde and emotions can get a little hot, you want to sort of just think about that and just chill out. That's what we call like a Zen-like attitude, because you don't really know to say, well, that's sort of a bit annoying, but you know what, I don't really know what's going on in their life, and just sort of let it go. All right. Okay, now the station days, which is short for stationary retrograde and stationary direct. So these are the days that the storm is either side of. These mark the start and the finish of the actual retrograde period, and they are right in the middle of the storm days. These are often the most disruptive of the entire transit, those 2 days. And so I'm just looking for those exact days. It's going to be the 21st, and just can't put my finger on the other day right at the moment, but it's going to be around the 14th of May. Okay. All right, so the transit itself, which is the magical time, this is when things settle down. So once Mercury settles into the retrograde transit, this can be a very positive time just to get things done, get it completed. Great for planning, great for research. It's a very productive time to get organized, plan, finalize things, that anything that comes up that's important. get that pile of work completed on your desk, sort things out, clean up, and, you know, complete those things that continually fall to the bottom of your list, all right? It's a great time to review and reset your goals too. You know, close off anything that's been on your mind for a while. And, you know, then once you close them off, you can get ready to what comes next. When you clean things up, it sort of like creates a void for new things to come in. So, you know, you're going to rearrange your goals so you're heading in the direction of your soul purpose, heading in the direction of where you want to go, your goals, the thing that you love the most, the thing that gives you the most excitement in life, okay? I mean, people in situations can also appear from the past during a retrograde. Excuse me. So, you know, during that time, if that happens, then it gives you a chance to either reconnect or gain closure on any issues that are outstanding. It's a perfect time also to consolidate your business rather than start a new project or association. And you can also reassess and fine-tune your personal and business dealings during this time. Okay, it's not just about business, it's about your personal. And, you know, it depends. So even though the retrograde is in Taurus, it's going to affect every sign in a different area of your life. Now, when we look at your personal chart, for instance, then that tells another whole story, which goes much deeper. As I said earlier, this is a great time to have a session with me to just see how that is going to play out in your personal chart. Okay, but right now, we're going to move on and have a look at each of the sun signs and have a look at how the solar chart, just relating to the solar chart for each sign, and how this Mercury retrograde is going to affect your sign. So starting with Aries, so anything to do with finances, possessions or property is affected during this period. You can expect delays, mix-ups, some small, some grand. You can do what you can to avoid any disruption in your life by having business matters under control. Get as organized with your money as you can, and you know there are things that people can do that they do that has effect on you, which is totally out of your control, and this is where all the mayhem can set loose. Okay, so once again, chill, all right, because it will pass. And sometimes when that happens, it means like, hey, this is going to change things and it's going to make them better. Okay, so all right, moving on. Taurus. As Mercury retrograde is actually in your sign, Taurus, for the whole of the retrograde period. Sometimes in a retrograde it'll go back into another sign, but it's in Taurus for the whole time. Don't be surprised if you just feel a little bit out of sorts and a little bit uncomfortable in your own skin during this time. You want to just feel that, and you want to push through and feel that uncomfortableness and just push through, because that's when a great deal of self-growth can happen, which can lead to transformation. Okay, so you will need to do everything that you can just to keep your energies balanced, and that means not working around the clock like a mad person, and just to do something nice for you, get that routine going, and this is great time to set routines in your life that over this sort of 3-week period you can start to get some consistency and habits in the routine, which you then can stick when it comes out of retrograde. Okay, think mind, body, spirit. All right. Okay, so Gemini. Well, Gemini, you're one of the signs that Mercury actually rules, so any Mercury retrograde is going to affect you. So just be careful of being in too much of a hurry. You want to check everything, check your facts, check the figures, particularly if anything that is written like an article, letter, email, and especially if it pertains to an official type of document. Okay, don't let it go through. You want to double check it, get someone else to look it over. And you know, even if you have to check it, you know, 3 times, it's going to be worth it in the long run. Now, that's, of course, if you can't put it off until after retrograde. And as I said, life doesn't always wait for Mercury to come out of retrograde, okay? So be careful also of passing on important jobs and errands to others who may not be able to do them, you know, and they may not share your, you know, level of expertise, urgency, or professionalism. So when it has your name on it, then you want to like be mindful just to take a little more care, whether it's you or someone else. Okay, Cancer. So don't even think about keeping any secrets, you know, a Cancer, from your nearest or dearest or your close friends, even if it's something he or she doesn't, you know, doesn't need to know, or, you know, does need to know. If you want to leave out a few pertinent details, then, you know, it can be seen as, you know, you're hiding something. So you're better to be upfront. I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, as a water sign, you can sort of give information on a need to know basis. This is not really the time to do that. You also want to keep in mind that having your say or putting your viewpoint across strongly during this period can alienate people. You want to sort of remember that when you are so intent on making yourself right, then you make the other person wrong. So just be open-minded to listen to other people's opinions, even if you don't agree with them, you know, I mean, so, you know, once again, this is your sort of chill point to keep in mind. All right, so Leo, anything to do with business will be under the microscope. I mean, and if you're in meetings or finalizing discussions, then just make sure and double check the arrangements. You want to make sure everyone knows what they're doing, what they're accountable for, where they should be. You're all on the same page. It's important over this period just to take some extra care with backing up your work electronically, and, you know, being organized so nobody and nothing falls through the cracks, okay? Because it's easy for things to be forgotten and fall through the cracks. I mean, if need be, this is a great time to get like organizational. I use Evernote. If you've been watching me for a while, you know, I'm always sort of giving them a plug because, you know, I mean, it does many things, but it's also very sophisticated to-do list. Nothing falls through the cracks when you're working with Evernote. Okay, so Virgo, if you were traveling, then just once again, check and double check the arrangements. Make sure you have everything packed into your suitcase that you need. Label your luggage properly. Allow for delays. You know, don't cut your time too tight. This is not the time to be running a red light, for sure. It's not the time to, you know, just giving yourself enough time. Not that you would, Virgo, okay? And so, you know, whether it's planes, trains, automobiles, or subways, you know, anything to do with travel right now can be altered. So last minute, you want to, you know, do the last minute checks. So, and also during this time, look for opportunities to learn something new. Okay, there's valuable lessons that can lead to your personal growth over this period. And we know you love to learn things. Okay, so Libra, be careful that you don't take someone's throwaway comments, you know, personally, because you know what? It probably has nothing to do with you anyway. And you just happen to be there in the firing line or overhear it. So, you know, just take it with a grain of salt, water up a duck's back, as they say. Money matters can be confusing during this time, and something you've been promised financially could also be delayed. Don't worry, it's going to come through. So try to go with the flow, take life in your stride, and just see what happens. Good advice for Mercury retrograde. What's delayed over this period can just simply right itself without any or much effort from you or anyone else. So I've certainly had that happen myself, you know. Excuse me. So Scorpio, I could really be in a roller coaster love ride, Scorpio, because it's right opposite your sign in your love zone. So, you know, when it's concerns communication that you're having between you and another, someone close, probably a romantic someone. It can get totally out of hand at this period. So, there's times it's like, no matter what you say, you try to make things right. No matter what you say, you sort of dig yourself in deeper. Sort of one of those times. So, sometimes it's just best to say nothing or very little. I mean, there is power in silence, and because, when two people think they're right, someone has to give. And if you can go on the upper ride, then it just diffuses straight away on the upper road. So let's just say this is not the best time to tackle a long-standing sensitive issue. You want to feel like the opportunity opens or the door opens to do that. And if it does, fine, but probably wouldn't be initiating it during this time, okay? Okay, so Sagittarius, so overworking and taking on way too much, okay, can end up with you having to take a forced rest just to recuperate. So you don't want to do that. So play it safe, make sure that you have a good dose of life balance. Otherwise, long hours at the office as well as partying till dawn really can take its toll over this time, and you don't want to have a forced rest, all right? So, get yourself, get yourself organized, and, don't get sort of all wound up and worried about things that are not even in your control. Just let it go. If you can do something about it, fine. If it's not in your control, let it go. Okay. And that's the way that you will disperse any stress. Capricorn. So us Capricorn. So, we need to be careful of taking people for granted during this time. We're so focused on what we're doing, right? So, just when you think you have life all worked out and you have a strategy to get, anyone to do just about anything, because, we're great at delegating. So your plans can change in a moment. So you want to keep life a little bit flexible. Remember to be thankful for the people around you and the people that support you. Don't gamble with life either. This is a time to be sensible and serious, as well as upfront with people you are closest to. So, it's a great time to be, seeing Mercury is the planet of communication. You want to remember that communication, there's many forms of communication, non-visual, the facial and the body, speaking, of course, and listening. So try to do more listening and try to ask more questions than you answer, okay? All right, so Aquarius, anything to do with your family, home, children, or the domestic area of your life can come unstuck during this time, all right? And when I say unstuck, just a little sort of a little tweak needed, or things can be a little bit sort of out of the norm. So you don't want to assume anything, all right? Always good advice in a Mercury retrograde. And if you're unsure of someone's movements, then take the time and get the facts, see what, and sometimes what we see is not really the full story. So you want to sort of take a step back and don't assume anything. Get the full story, get the backstory, and see what's happening, all right? And just be mindful to do with around your home and your house, security conscious. Make sure it's locked and secure. And this is a good time to have a spare set of keys with your neighbor or friend. I mean, sometimes I think all of Beverly Hills has my key because, I'm regularly locking myself out. I have one of those lock box outside because, it seems to be something that I do in a regular. So I will definitely be making sure I remember the code to my lockbox. Okay, so Pisces, you want to keep your day planner flexible. Plans can change in an instant during the Mercury retrograde time. And there's there's likely to be some chaos and confusion around if you just comes with the transit. So there's no point digging your heels in and insist that it is business as usual, because, you know, that's not going to go anywhere. So you may as well just go with the energy, go into fix it management mode at work, and find solutions. Okay. And, you know, try to just be there and supportive on a personal level. I mean, even if you're just offering a Band-Aid fix right now, then that's going to be good for now. All right. And if you're confronted with a situation where someone needs to take control, then to take a step back, and, you know, evaluate the situation. If they need to sort of run with it, fine. If you need to run with it, then you're certainly the person that can do that. So just be flexible and go with the flow. You're generally good at going with the flow, but, you know, also, you know, you like to get things done as well. And when you're on a mission, you're on a mission. Okay. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed the Mercury Retrograde report. As I said, it's going to be up as an article, a podcast, and of course, this video. All right. So love, vision to all of you. I hope you have a fabulous week. Please reach out to me, tell you what's happening, any wins. I love to hear wins. And if you haven't subscribed already, then I'd love it if you could, and also to share it. Okay, thanks so much. Bye for now.